Now, global efforts to combat climate change in Africa's real estate industry has garnered a significant attention, with initiatives ranging from green affordable housing investments in countries like Kenya to Novare's recent partnership with the International Finance Corporation on its Greening Real Estate Investment Portfolios program, and that's for sustainable and green building development. Joining me now to unpack the continent's commitment to sustainable development in real estate is Lerato Kumalo, who is Chief ESG and Impact Officer at Novare. Lerato, an absolute pleasure and a good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Well, I think for maybe the benefit of our viewers, let's maybe start off by speaking just about the carbon footprint of the real estate sector, which I think we might actually downplay here, but it really is tangible and worth addressing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the real estate sector is known to be providing about, close to about 40% of global energy and industry-related carbon emissions. And I think the stats is something around like 20 or 30% of solid waste in landfills is as a result of the real estate sector. So I do think that this sector plays a significant role in impacting the environment negatively, and as such, we are responsible for doing whatever we can to try and turn around the negative impacts that we make on the environment.
With that said, Novare has decided to become very proactive in this. Let's talk about the partnership with the IFC there and with GRIP. I think that's the term that is used there, Lerato. Really trying to ensure that you're proactively looking at real estate within the African continent and minimizing that footprint.
Yeah, we're very excited about this partnership. We are officially the first African real estate investment firm or developer to partner with the IFC on this initiative. And really what it is, it's about us partnering, working together to be able to establish a really detailed decarbonization strategy for our portfolio. We've already mentioned the fact that we make these negative impacts on the environment, but the world is driving towards a green transition and trying to ensure that we can have a net zero real estate sector. So we are working with them to be able to drive down our carbon emissions on our real estate, our properties in Nigeria, in Zambia, and Mozambique. And we've already made some great strides in trying to achieve that. We already have 2 of our properties that are EDGE certified, and EDGE is another product that is innovated by the IFC, and that is a green certification program that obviously just tries to encourage all kinds of real estate property developers to try and reduce the carbon emissions of their properties by driving down or improving the resource efficiencies of their buildings. So we're really excited to be able to try and map a way forward for us to ultimately, hopefully, achieve something close to net zero as soon as possible.
Let's talk about what this realistically looks like on a day-to-day, Lerato. When we speak about a building getting the right certification there and being green, what does that really mean, tangibly?
For us, what that means is that from inception, when we look at the development in terms of how we identify the land that we're going to develop on, it's about considering the ecosystem of the space that we're going to invade with our buildings and trying to remain or retain that balance as far as possible. It is how we design our buildings with a thought around how we impact the environment in terms of the carbon emissions from the kind of materials that we identify and choose to use that are lower embodied energy, and then considering how we can improve efficiencies in terms of our operations to be able to improve energy and ensure that water usage as well is optimized. So, for us, that means incorporating basic things like LED lighting into our buildings, sensors in terms of occupancy sensors wherever we can, ensuring that when we design and we build, we consider how we're going to cool these environments in the most efficient way, and then considering things like being able to install PV solar rooftop PV for these buildings as well, so that we can reduce our reliance on fossil fuels as far as possible. And so obviously that for us is how we target every single property, and then further on trying to find further means for us to be able to drive down carbon emissions over time. Once we've established what our baseline is, how we're using the energy that we're using, what it means in terms of how we're impacting the environment, what exactly is our carbon footprint, and how we can further drive that down by incorporating any other new technologies that may be available to us, depending on their accessibility, and obviously ease of use in terms of the geographies that we're based in. But really it is about us trying to find the best ways possible to drive down our carbon emissions.
But I must ask you, when we look at real estate here, are we finding that it is possible to, make a building or make a real estate green retrospectively? So, a building that might have been built back in the day, to go back and make it green, as important as it is, of course, to look at it when we are looking at building, new buildings.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge that the industry is faced with currently. If we're having this kind of negative impact on the environment, what can we do? Because some of these buildings are already in existence, and that is part of the challenge that we have. What things can we incorporate into existing buildings to be able to drive down those carbon emissions? And yes, it is possible. It does come with some costs. And as I said to you, depending on the geographies, you're in accessibility to certain technologies, new materials, and other interventions that one could incorporate into a building to be able to get to an almost net zero environment is a little bit challenging, but it is possible. It is quite possible for us to retrofit buildings, to improve how we operate, and to be able to redesign them, so to speak, to ensure that we are more efficient in our operations.
And are we expecting this to drive the real estate, sector for good, Lerato? This will be the way in which the sector works, how much, it contributes to the environment, will then positively or negatively being at the center of the investment decisions looking forward.
Yeah, I think it's critical for us to be able to consider, sustainability as a whole when we make investments. It's really critical for us to be able to think about not only the environment, but how we impact the communities in which we operate. And I do think it is a growing area of discussion, and it's area of even research on how we can improve our operations and our processes in terms of the built environment to ensure that we are more sustainable, that we are on board with, the Sustainable Development Goals that are seeking to have a more balanced approach, to ensure that nature and humanity can be able to coexist in greater harmony. And I do think a lot of investment professionals are really very considerate and very deliberate about how they go about investing in this space to ensure that they align themselves with developers that are green-minded, that understand what it means to be able to approach these particular investments, understanding exactly what the impacts are and how we can improve society as a whole in how we approach it.
Brilliant. It's been a pleasure speaking to Lerato. Thank you so much for speaking to us about this one this afternoon. That was Lerato Kumalo. She's Chief ESG and Impact Officer at Novare.